sent back from whence they came, exploding in an enemy's face. I also very much enjoyed the mouse mechanic, which reduces you down to a super small size, effectively turning on Toy Story mode that lets you clamber up oversized shelves and leaves in search of secrets. Even powers from previous Astro adventures are reinvented to great effect. For example, the Monkey Climber is an evolution of Playroom's climbing ability, but the assistance of a small robotic ape with huge hands this time means rocks can be hurled and ground pounded to great delight. Laurels are never rested on either, with new ideas and gadgets introduced right up until the final encore. Although some mechanics are reused a little more than I'd like, when such powers are recycled in later levels, they're thankfully recontextualized and given slightly new uses. Outside of bosses and mini-bosses, there initially doesn't appear to be a great range in enemy types. Sure, some are coated in different colours of paint or dressed to fit in with their surroundings, but they are all vanquished via the same few fundamental jump and hit combos. Later on though, the design book opens up and introduces some of my favourite foes. Those include an anthropomorphic playing card that flings a hand of clubs and spades your way, which you can then jump on to make your way towards the enemy to deal a killing blow of your own. Much friendlier faces can be found frequently though, over 150 of them in fact, as characters from PlayStation's vast library of games have made their way into Astro's world in the form of other bots. There are ones you'd expect, like Lombaxes, Tomb Raiders, and a certain rapping dog, but delightfully, some are plucked from the more obscure end of the scale. I'll let you discover those for yourself, and you'll never know where you'll find them either. For example, you'll rescue everyone's favourite tactical espionage action hero from the unfamiliar surroundings of Creamy Canyon, a desert-based land dressed in sprinkles that's a far cry from the steel and snow of Shadow Moses. It's light touches of irony and slapstick humour like this that keep Astro's playful tone going throughout. It really is just a delight from start to finish in this regard. Many of the PlayStation characters appear as short, charming cameos, but a handful play fully fledged supporting roles. I won't spoil who gets the star treatment here, aside from one, the previously revealed Kratos.
Alright, so let's see what they show. It's going to be a 9-minute event. We'll see if the rumors are true.
Hi, I'm Mark Cerny. I'm excited to be here to talk about the newest addition to our console lineup, PlayStation 5 Pro, and how it advances gaming technology. But first, I want to take just a minute to look at what we put in the original PlayStation 5 and how it delivers an exceptional gaming experience. When PS5 debuted in 2020, it brought a lot to the table. 8 Zen 2 CPU cores form the brains of PlayStation 5 and enable high-speed complex gameplay, with character counts reaching into the hundreds and frame rates that can be as high as 120 frames a second. PS5 has a powerful RDNA 2 GPU, which can render anything from intricate details to fantastic worlds with vast panoramas to explore. Ray tracing allows for dramatic visual improvements, including reflections off of water or glass, and the realism that comes from real-time global illumination. A custom SSD can load data at breathtaking speed, resulting in ultra-fast transitions between game worlds, and data streaming rates so high that traversal speeds are essentially unlimited.
You okay? I'm working on it!
Tempest 3D audio tech brings an unparalleled sense of immersion to the sound of the games. With audio so real, you may not even need to see the enemies to know exactly where they are. Finally, the DualSense controller has haptics that let you feel through your hands what your character is experiencing inside of the game. It's wonderful to see such variety and richness of game experiences. Creators have made amazing use of the hardware capabilities, but when I talk to them, I do hear about their desire for more graphics performance. The dreams of the developers are bigger than can be supported at 60 frames per second, and that leads to an aspect of modern gaming that we're all familiar with: graphics modes. It can be a difficult choice for players. Fidelity modes emphasize the visuals, typically through higher resolution rendering. These modes might also have enhanced detail or use more ray tracing. But the games only run at 30 frames per second. The visuals can be choppier and the controls less responsive. Performance modes emphasize frame rate and interactivity, typically choosing to run at 60 frames per second, mainly by reducing the graphical detail until those frame rates can be achieved. When asked to decide on a mode, players are choosing performance about 3/4 of the time. Removing that decision, or at least narrowing that divide, is one of the key targets for PlayStation 5 Pro. We want to give players the graphics that the game creators aspire to, at the high frame rates that players typically prefer. To do that, PS5 Pro substantially improves over PlayStation 5 in 3 ways. Here's what we call the Big 3. First, we made the GPU much larger and increased the speed of the memory it uses. The result is rendering that's up to 45% faster. Second, we made major upgrades to the ray tracing, taking a streamlined and accelerated approach that allows calculation of the rays at double or even triple the speeds of PlayStation 5. And finally, we added custom hardware for machine learning and an AI library called PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PSSR for short. PSSR analyzes the game images pixel by pixel and can add an extraordinary amount of detail, which boosts the effective resolution of the games. Game creators are adding PS5 Pro support to new and existing titles, and with the Big 3 involved, the results can be pretty amazing, with graphics showing something like fidelity levels of detail, but at double the frame rate. Here's The Last of Us Part 2 running on PS5 Pro. It has huge amounts of detail and targets a super smooth 60 frames per second. Let's compare this to the Fidelity mode on PS5, which is only running at 30 frames per second and is therefore much choppier. This goal of delivering almost Fidelity-like graphics at performance frame rates has been achieved for a broad set of titles, including Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. We can see that PS5 Pro is close to doubling the power of PlayStation 5. Another way to compare the two consoles is to look at PS5 Pro versus Performance mode on PS5, both of which target 60 frames per second. What we see here is a difference in detail. PS5 Pro is much sharper and crisper than PS5. For this, my favorite is the parade scene from Ratchet & Clank. Distant details are much clearer. And here we can see Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is noticeably higher resolution throughout the scene, including the trees and procedural cars. So overall, some remarkable improvement to the games. On PS5 Pro, we can see increased sharpness to the graphics or smoother and more responsive gameplay. This is the big three showing their value. As you've been seeing, machine learning via the PSSR library is being used quite broadly to add pixel detail and boost frame rate. But there are as many approaches as there are game engines. The increase in raw GPU power is being especially effective for Horizon Forbidden West. Apart from the detail boost, that extra graphics power is allowing for improvements to lighting and visual effects, as well as to the hair and the skin in cinematics.
Open up, guys. Jorv's orders.
Good enough for me.
Ray tracing is finding broad usage as well, particularly when games are focused on higher frame rates. The faster hardware in PS5 Pro can make a real difference. Allowing Gran Turismo 7 to add ray-traced reflections between the cars in gameplay, while continuing to support their targeted 60 frames per second. That boost in ray tracing is also delivering big wins for Hogwarts Legacy, allowing not only for better reflections and a greater variety of reflective surfaces, but also for further realism in the casting of shadows. I hope you've enjoyed this run-through of the technology behind PlayStation 5 Pro. Simply put, it's the most powerful console we've ever built, and a worthy addition to the PS5 family. Let me wrap this up by giving you a quick look at a number of games running on the new console.
You'll never break a legend, 'cause they don't know we are legendary.
Don't let me hang
Close your eyes. It'll be worth it.
Okay.
Did I do it? Oh, what is this? What's with all the neon?
PlayStation.
Ooh, okay. Well, that's it. I don't know. It seems like there isn't like big changes, but I mean, like it's for the people who notice from a distance certain things and
Another
textures and stuff like
episode of
that.
Beyond. This is a very, very special episode of
And
Beyond.
$700
because,
bucks.
we
I don't
just
know
got
about
a
the price
look
either.
at the PS5 Pro, and of course, joining me to talk about
Pretty
it, we
crazy
got
though.
The
Pretty crazy
cast
stuff that
of
they announced
Beyond.
it.
We got Brian, Max, and Jada. How we all doing?
Beyond. Good morning. We got a new PS5. Look at that.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, and it's only $700.
Only $700.
And the stand is sold separately, by the way, just in case anyone was.
And the
wondering.
stand is
The
sold
stand
separately.
is
Wow,
sold
so it's more than
separately. But
700.
wanna kinda
I was
get
worried
our-
about that.
please let's not. That's fake news, Max. But no, I want us to kind of break down what we saw. Of course, Mark Cerny, he hit us
Yep,
with
none of you guys think about
the
it.
big three, which I didn't even know that there was a big three, but he talked about the big three. He talked about
Yeah, the big
PS5
three,
Pro
too.
having a larger GPU,
Faster.
45% faster rendering
Better
time,
textures from
advanced
the
ray
background
tracing,
area, pretty much.
double and sometimes tripling the speed. AI-driven upscaling, which I thought was pretty unique. What were our takeaways from this?
Yeah. All right. There we go.
Well, I think my immediate reaction is this is going to be a fantastic console for people who don't own a PS5 yet and haven't
True.
played any of those games.
True.
The thing that was really missing for me from this presentation was that big new sort of killer app that says you got to buy this thing. Like when the PS5 launched, you know, you had a pretty rounded selection of launch games to go with it to sort of justify jumping from the PS4 to the PS5. Maybe you could trade in your PS4, get a PS5. It was 2020. We were all inside. We had nothing to do. There was a lot of good reasons to get that thing on day one. This is a significantly more expensive version of the console than the one I bought in 2020, which was $400 for the digital version, $500 for the disc-based version. And I saw a lot of really awesome benefits and bells and whistles coming to games that I've beaten already. And I don't know if I want to play those again. I really like what they're doing.